It's easy to be negative about the Cardinals these days. So today, we're going to point out some of the good things that went right for this team in 2024.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Haffern, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou and a lifetime Cardinals fan. I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Follow me on Twitter, at JD Sports Radio. You can also follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube, making that push for 11,000 subscribers. So if you enjoy the content and stuff that you hear and you're a big Cardinals fan, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, be sure to comment and interact with us, and hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. First off, apologies. Was sick last week, so I wasn't able to get out an episode each and every day for you guys. I missed a couple of days there. I'm still kind of recovering from whatever the heck I get. I don't even get sick very often. It doesn't happen very much, but when I do, man, it takes me out big time. So apologies for that, but we're back and ready to go on this Monday. The 2024 Cardinals finished with 83 wins last year, which was 12 more than where they were in 2023. So despite not making the playoffs, you can view this past season as an improvement, at least. I wouldn't say it was like a grand success at all. Obviously, our aspirations are to make the playoffs and make a run for a world championship. But, it was still an improvement in that the team was a much better product day in and day out than it was in 2023. I think you can admit that, right? Of course, we as fans wanted more. To be better than that. But when the season began, I predicted 84 wins. So it's not like they were all that far off from what I thought this team was going to be, because the roster as a whole just wasn't good enough in my eyes from the get-go to push for 90 wins and be a playoff team. I just didn't see that happening. It doesn't mean that this team was complete garbage by any means, despite what the attendance dropped down to each home game, which made you think that maybe they were playing like the Chicago White Sox, which they really weren't. The team won more games than they lost this year. They were much more entertaining in my eyes to watch this year than last year. And there were a few reasons why. And I want to point those out. I want to highlight some of those good things here today, things that actually went right for the team in 2024. And I want to start it off with the decision to trust Masyn Winn to be your everyday shortstop. Now, Winn got a taste of the show at the end of 2023, and it was a real struggle for him offensively, as it normally is for a young player. I think we take for granted that these guys are, if they've been pretty good at AA and AAA, that they're just automatically going to be really good at the major league level. That's really just not the case. Like, it is night and day almost between what the pitching and what the players are like at the major league level and what you're seeing at AAA. Not saying that AAA doesn't have its good players and all, but I mean, this is the best in the world that are playing at this level. And kids get up there and it's tough. It's a tough adjustment, not only for the game itself, but just lifestyle wise, going to another new city and then getting used to what hotel life is and everything that they got to go through at the major league level. So it can be tough for guys when they first come up. Not everybody just comes out smashing the ball. It just doesn't happen. He appeared in 37 games, made 137 plate appearances, and hit just 172 in 2023. Had a 230 on base percentage, 238 slugging percentage, 467 OPS. The OPS plus was 28. 28, man. Defensively, I think most of us came away pretty impressed with what we saw from Masyn Winn when he first came up. His demeanor, his range, obviously the arm, he's got a cannon. The maturity that he showed at the position where, he had chances where he could try to rev that arm up and gun somebody if he could really go for it, but would put the ball in his pocket and be like, no, it's not worth it because if I make an error, the guy's moving around. So offensively, some were very skeptical about what they saw, and some even made up their minds that he'd never be able to hit at the major league level. They thought that was it. Masyn Winn he's a terrible hitter, and we're screwed at the shortstop position. So I don't know where those people are now. I wonder about them. I wonder if they're safe, if they've gone into their little caves and are hiding, because my everydayers will remember that I was appalled and scolded people like that who felt that over 37 games that this guy's future was already a foregone conclusion. I pointed out that he had similar struggles at every single level of pro ball that he had been in so far. He would start off a little bit cold, figures things out, and then his numbers would even out, and he'd become the guy that we've known throughout his career. It's why getting guys like Masyn Winn last year, Thomas J.C. this year, by getting them at bats at the major league level, you can even say Luken Baker, who looked way more comfortable this year when he finally came up. Why getting them at bats at the big leagues at the end of the year is important. Let them get used to things, see what it's like to be a big leaguer. That way you kind of have a jump on things for the next season, because Winn was a rock star from the get-go this year. This dude was outstanding. He hit 304 in that first month, hit 309 in May. First half of the season, he hits 284, 332 OBP, 406 slugging, had a 739 OPS. The OPS plus was 109. The Cardinals were winning, as they crept up in the first half of the season. Things were going pretty well after the early months where they struggled. And if you remember early on in those months, Ollie had him down in the order, often batting him at number 9. But eventually, as he progressed, they started to realize that, okay, he's actually more deserving to be higher in this lineup, and ended up taking over that leadoff spot. If there was a complaint, it was that he only hit 5 home runs in the first half of the season. People were wondering, okay, does he have any power whatsoever? And he does. He proved that. The second half, he discovered that power stroke a bit. Smacks 10 home runs, so the slugging went up to 427, but the batting average did dip a little bit, which often happens when the power goes up. A lot of times the batting average come down a bit, drops to 247. Much of that can probably be attributed to the wear and tear of his first big league season, though, because the final 23 games were very bad. Okay, worst numbers, he hit 196. The OBP dropped to 234. Remember how early on in the season they were giving him days off, trying to keep him well rested, and people complained about that. Then later on in the season, he's playing every day with something like 50 straight games, I think is what was brought up to us. And he just wore down. He just wore down, which often happens to guys when they take on their first major league season, because it's so long and grueling. Defensively, FanGraphs had him at 14 defensive runs saved, which is tied for 6th best in all of baseball, and not at shortstop. In all positions, like he was tops at shortstop. Finished 3 better than the Angels' Zach Neto, or is it Neto? I forget which one he is. Now he did make 18 errors. I'll be honest there, 18 errors, which you hope he improves on. The fielding percentage, 971, which is 8th in the league at shortstop. But overall, I think you had to be impressed with what Masyn Winn did for the team, and he quite possibly could be the face of this franchise moving forward. I kind of pointed that out, that we all kind of thought Jordan Walker was going to be that guy, and he was going to be your face, and he was going to be the Batman. Masyn Winn was going to be the Robin, and that didn't happen in 2024. Masyn Winn took on that top role, and he was, the guy whose picture was plastered all over things, and Jordan Walker spent a lot of time in the minor leagues instead. Now, can they come together, hopefully, in the next couple of years? Yeah, I sure hope so. I sure hope so. But right now, Masyn Winn is the guy. So that was one thing they did get right, trusting Masyn Winn. They obviously got Brandon Crawford just in case, and we don't really know how much Brandon Crawford helped Masyn Winn behind the scenes. I would assume he did a good job helping them learn things about the position and whatnot. I never heard any complaints about it, but they trusted Masyn Winn from the get-go, and that was a smart move. They got that right. Next up, we're going to talk about the pitching side of things that they got right. That's next on Locked On Cardinals. The fall season is upon us, so it's time to stock up on things like flannels, hoodies. I love my hoodies. You got to get some new jeans, perhaps a fire pit for the house, some Halloween decorations. You see mine back here if you're watching on YouTube. Plus, as the temperature drops, you'll want to start doing some more cooking, like crock pots and things like that. You'll need all the ingredients to make your favorite stews and soups to keep you nice and warm inside. And you can get all of this and earn cash back with Ibotta. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys. The average Ibata user earns $256 per year, and that could cover the cost of a major portion of your day to one of your favorite sporting events, whether you want to save it up for going to a ball game or you want to go to a football game, whatever you want to spend it on. Maybe that flight you've been eyeing to go on vacation, to go where it's a little bit warmer this time of year, or maybe a fancy dinner that you and the family want to go out and get. You can do that with Ibotta. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. It's time you join over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. LOCKEDONMLB. That's Ibotta, spelled IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. You can leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter X anytime you want. Your feedback is always welcome and encouraged. So coming out of 2023, one thing that needed some major attention was the Cardinals starting pitching, right? A lot of turnover there. Gone were Jordan Montgomery, Jack Flaherty, who just pitched excellent for the Dodgers. Adam Wainwright was gone. Dakota Hudson, yeah, he was on the roster, and he was gone. There was some high-priced talent that was available in free agency. Remember, we talked about, Cy Young winner Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Thinking about, we could get him. But realistically, we knew the Cardinals weren't going to fork over the dough it would take to sign any of those big guys, right? It just isn't something they were going to do. They wanted innings eaters. Remember that phrase? Innings eaters. You had one already in your rotation in Miles Michaelis, who may or may not do things all that well at this point in his career, but you certainly can't knock him for not taking the ball each and every day. I mean, that is one thing Miles Michaelis will do. He's been able to stay healthy over the last couple of seasons, and even though he's not all that great on the mound sometimes, or a lot of the time when you go look at things, but it's a guy that you could always count on, that it was always going to be there. He's there. He'll take the ball. He's ready to roll. You still had Steven Matz, who they were hoping could stay healthy. Spoiler alert, didn't happen. So they needed at least three guys to fill out the rotation, right? Three guys to fill out the rotation. So Mo went out and he signs three. He goes and gets Sonny Gray. He gets Kyle Gibson, and he gets Lance Lynn. Gray was an obvious target because he just fit. He just fit being a St. Louis Cardinal. And I hope he sticks around. I hope that we haven't seen the last of Sonny Gray in a Cardinals uniform. But he was what they were looking for. They were looking for a guy who could take on that number one role on the staff and be somebody that they could count on to get strikeouts. He has the swing and miss, and was just coming off an AL Cy Young award-worthy campaign where he finished second in the voting. Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn were interesting choices, considering the seasons they were coming off of. Gibson won 15 games with the Orioles, but had an ERA of 4.73, gave up the fourth most hits in the league. Lance Lynn was with the White Sox, then got traded to the Dodgers. He got dinged to the tune of a league-leading 44 home runs and gave up the fifth most hits in the league. You add those two guys to the type of pitcher that Miles Michaelis was, who led the league in hits given up, and it left me scratching my head, and a lot of people scratching their head. But the target was innings, guys who would throw a lot of innings and get quality starts. That's what they were looking for, and that goal was certainly met by Kyle Gibson. because he was able to stay healthy. I'm not knocking Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn surprised me how decent he did pitch when he was available this year, but we know he went through some injuries, and it was a tough year for Lynn, although I think he panned out, but he missed a decent chunk of time. But Kyle Gibson, he was everything they wanted him to be. Kyle Gibson gave them 30 starts. The league leaders in Major League Baseball made 33 starts. He threw 169 and 2/3 innings, which gives you almost 6 innings per start. He had 13 quality starts, which was tied for second on the team with Sonny Gray. Number 1, Miles Mikolas, by the way. Nobody would have seen that one coming. I sure didn't. Miles Mikolas had 15 quality starts this year, if you can believe it. Kyle Gibson did go through a rut where he didn't win a game for a while there, if you remember, but finishes on the season at 8-8. We know that, records can be a little misleading. At a 4.24 ERA, the ERA plus of 99. I think, in my opinion, Kyle Gibson did a really good job in the role he was given. And to be honest, I wouldn't hate to have him back again next year as part of the back end of this rotation if they can get him to take a pay cut. I don't want him at the, $12 million, I think is what he's supposed to make next year. I don't want him at that price. But maybe he takes a pay cut. It's not out of the realm of possibilities if he truly wants to be in St. Louis and enjoy his time in St. Louis, which it seemed like he did. So I chalk the signing of Kyle Gibson as something they definitely got right. Okay. I would put Lance Lynn on the list of something that they got right. I didn't like the signing when it happened, but when you go back and look at it, Lance Lynn was better than I gave him credit for. And egg on my face for not believing in Lance Lynn like some other people did. I know I had plenty of friends who were big fans of Lance Lynn and were always like, dude, Lance Lynn's not that bad. Why do you hate on him so much? And I'm like, I don't feel like I hated on him that much. I just, I wanted better. I just wanted better. I was hoping for a higher quality signing than Lance Lynn. I liked the Gibson signing from the get-go, but I wanted somebody better than Lance Lynn. It didn't happen, but I think Lance Lynn did a fine job. But I was very much impressed for the most part of what we got from Kyle Gibson last year. So I want to give credit to Mo, which is not something that we do a whole lot of, but credit to Mo on the Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn signings. And I think they got those right for what those guys were supposed to be, which was back of the rotation guys. You got to admit they weren't that bad, right? Like, not everybody can throw up a staff that's got a bunch of Cy Young caliber guys 1 through 5. All right. And, should they have gotten somebody better than Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson to go with one of Kyle Gibson or Lance Lynn? Yes, I still think that's something they should have done. But I can't say that those guys did anything wrong. And so we'll give them credit for that one. Last but not least, we're going to move to the bullpen. A bright spot for this team this season with Ryan Helsley as the crown jewel. That's next on Locked On Cardinals. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Now, sometimes you'll be watching a game and you just kind of, you just get a hunch. You get a hunch that something's going to go down. You start to feel like, ooh, I think that's probably going to happen. Well, when you get a hunch like that in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view the live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets on the FanDuel app. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, you definitely should do that. Plenty of college and pro football going on each and every weekend for you. Obviously, Monday Night Football tonight, it is the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets going up against each other. Will the Jets offense improve tonight now that they've made the change at the head coach and they're changing who's calling the plays for the Jets? I mean, it's still Aaron Rodgers back there. So what's your hunch tell you? FanDuel will get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. Check out Locked On MLB, the podcast hosted by our buddy Sully, who is going to take you through the Fall Classic, all of the ups and downs of what's going on with the playoffs every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't have to go searching anywhere. We make it easy for you. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the rebuilding of the bullpen was also something that Mo had to deal with in the offseason. Jordan Hicks gone. Chris Stratton, damn glad to meet you. Shipped out at the deadline in 2023. And the Cardinals went about it by basically signing and trading for multiple people, including John King, who was coming back from the Montgomery deal from the Rangers. They traded for Andrew Kittredge from the Tampa Bay Rays. They got Ryan Fernandez as a Rule 5 pick from the Boston Red Sox. They brought back who else did they get? They got a couple guys in the Tyler O'Neill trade, which didn't work out so well. Riley O'Brien traded to get him out of Seattle. Sean Armstrong obviously was a deal they made as well from Tampa Bay in the Dylan Carlson deal. They signed free agent Keenan Middleton. So the game plan was to attack this problem by getting as many arms as they possibly could, as many arms as they could get their hands on, because bullpen arms can be very volatile. As we've learned over the years, you usually need a bunch of them to get you through the year. And that's exactly what happened, because not all of those names that we just mentioned, those deals didn't work out. King, Kittredge, and Fernandez, they worked out great. The Tyler O'Neill deal did not work out so well. Sean Armstrong, surprisingly to me, got DFA'd for roster spots. O'Brien was hurt most of the year. Keenan Middleton never pitched for them because he was hurt due to injury. But you have King, Kit, Fernandez with guys that you already had in the bullpen, and Jojo Romero, Matthew Liberatore, and closer Ryan Helsley. And that mix, along with, some of those other guys that got sprinkled in throughout the year, guys like Kyle Leahy, Chris Roycroft, ended up being a pretty darn dependable bullpen. They had hopes, and I get it. You want to, when you've had a guy that's been in your organization for a while, you want to give him as many chances as possible. By all accounts, Giovanni Gallegos was a really good guy. Everybody loved him in the clubhouse, but he just didn't have it anymore. And they kept giving him chances because, over the years, they felt like, hey, he's been one of our guys. We owe it to him. And finally, they had to make the tough decision by cutting him loose because he just wasn't any good anymore. So that took a while to get through. Andre Palante ended up moving up into the rotation. He wasn't so great out of the bullpen, so then they go to the rotation, and he figures things out at AAA. That was good, but you saw Gordon Graceffo come up and get some action as well. Steven Matz did some bullpen work again. I think overall, you got to be impressed with how they put it together. Overall, they finished with a combined 3.64 ERA, which was the 7th lowest bullpen ERA in all of baseball. They combined to lead the league in saves with 55. Obviously, Ryan Helsley being the big guy there, accounting for 49 of those, a record-setting season for him with the Cardinals. And of the main bullpen pieces of, Helsley, Liberatore, Kittredge, Fernandez, Romero, and King, they didn't spend a lot of money to make this bullpen as good as it was, which is pretty good. Now, Helsley's eventual arbitration, raise, and possible trade is clearly going to be a big story during this offseason. We'll keep an eye on that. Kittredge is also a free agent, but everyone else will be back. So that's a good start for 2025. When I spoke with Jeff Jones last week, he mentioned that somebody that, when we were talking about possible closers to take over for Ryan Helsley if and when he does get traded, he mentioned Matthew Liberatore, which is somebody that, he was pretty good last year. But he also mentioned Chris Roycroft, that they like his kind of, bulldog mentality. And he's a guy, when he's out there, he looks nasty, right? He's a big guy. He's got a lot of energy, and he looks like he's got the mindset to be a closer. Is his stuff good enough to be a closer? They'll have to work on it, obviously, because there's moments where he came in and you're like, oh my gosh, he looks great, and then he'd say, oh my gosh, he looks terrible. So obviously, you need him to be a little more consistent. But overall, this year, the way they put the bullpen together, and then you see the final numbers, I think you have to give the front office and the Cardinals credit that they got it right. They got it right with what they did to build this bullpen and, get some more arms to keep it going when people would break down eventually, because, obviously you have injuries from time to time and these guys will fall off. How big was not having Keenan Middleton this year, considering what kind of pitcher he was the previous year, and how good he was like with the Yankees and had some decent moments with the White Sox, but particularly how good he was with the Yankees. Like, losing that guy was huge. That was huge. And you saw other guys have to pick up the slack for him not being there. I mean, Andrew Kittredge coming back from Tommy John surgery, that was a lot of work for him this past year. So that sucked. But we got to see some other guys step up in his place. And I thought the bullpen was good. Again, this team wasn't perfect by any means. It was just kind of a good team. But there were some positives that went on this year, and some honorable mention guys that went well. How about Alec Burleson this year? Giving him more at-bats and using him more ended up showing that he became one of the more consistent hitters on the team, specifically against right-handed pitching. Now he's got some issues against lefties, but you saw him step up with the Tyler O'Neill trade. Where was production going to come from? He was great. So you got to give him some credit there. Keeping Michael Ciani around. He was a guy in spring training that I thought was going to get cut, or certainly was going to be down in Memphis. Injuries caused him to be on the road on the opening day roster. I told you I'm sick. And they trusted him, and he was able to have a Gold Glove worthy season in center field. So there were some things they got right. Now, there were certainly some things they got wrong, but we're going to save that for the next episode. So those are my 3 things that the team got right. Trusting Masyn Winn, signing Kyle Gibson, piecing together the bullpen. What are some other things that you feel that the Cardinals did right in 2024? Keep it positive. Keep it positive. We can talk about them in another upcoming episode as well. So leave your comments down below. Hit me up on Twitter, X. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter, X, at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe on YouTube. Help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. I'm going to go take some more medicine. I will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals. Thanks for hanging out, guys.